Hello everyone, it's Dylan from Yugioh Everything, and welcome to the first video of what will hopefully be a 5-part series where I explore the forgotten storylines of a Yu-Gi-Oh series. This time, we will start with the top 5 forgotten storylines of the third Yu-Gi-Oh show, the second spin-off, Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. Now, if you're unaware, there were a lot of executive changes that took place during 5Ds, thanks to real-life cults, the popularity of Blackwings, and other last-minute changes. That being said, there were plenty of interesting storylines that were either changed or just never expanded on, and I cannot wait to go over some of the most interesting with you all in this video. So please, sit back and enjoy the top 5 forgotten storylines in Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. Don't forget to comment your thoughts down below, and without further ado, let's begin. I hope you enjoy. So just making this list at the number 5 spot is the Sly/Stardust Dragon plotline. If that doesn't ring any sort of bell to you, I don't blame you. Sly was a pretty forgettable character. If you need reminding, this is what he looked like. Just had that whole punk/bad guy look to him, right? Anyway, the reason he is on this list is because at the end of episode 67, the third episode of the new season, season 3, it really seemed like he was going to be a somewhat recurring and maybe even early on minor antagonist. Let me just show you how episode 67, his debut episode, ended, and you'll probably understand why a lot of hardcore 5Ds fans feel this is one of the most bizarre, untouched plot points in the show.
Stardust Dragon.
Ominous, right? But more than ominous, that whole scene was just like foreshadowing to the max. This was during a time period where it was pretty apparent the writers didn't really know what direction to go in. The show was actually originally supposed to end after the Darksiders arc, which ended at episode 64, but due to the show's popularity along with how well the card game was still selling, they decided to make it a typical 3-year-long Yu-Gi-Oh show. This clearly befuddled the writers, and it's not hard to tell, because a lot of the duels after the Darksiders arc, really up until Crash Town, were either one-off duels or were just really weird, out-of-place episodes. This one is no different. But out of all the duels that happened during this time, this was one that stood out of place, mainly because in Yu-Gi-Oh, when an episode ends on a darker, more mysterious, ambiguous note like this, it is almost always retouched upon down the road. This was the kids' debut episode, and they most likely would have not ended the episode the way they had they not had any plans to further expand on it. Maybe a Sly vs. Yusei duel at some point was in the works, or Sly actually successfully stealing Yusei's Stardust, which would lead to Yusei dueling him to win it back without his ace monster. I don't know, there were definitely a lot of possibilities that could have went. However, as you can guess by the title of this video, this was never touched on again. In fact, Sly was a character that probably said a total of 3 lines throughout the rest of the show. He only appeared in 4 episodes, I believe, after this, and 3 of those appearances were just him sitting in a crowd watching either a Team 5D's duel or the Yusei vs. Zone duel. What seemed to be a definite plot point that was going to be expanded on in the early season of Season 3 was never touched on again, and it definitely remains to be one of the more seemingly obvious forgotten plot lines in Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. Romance and Yu-Gi-Oh! Are 2 things that do not go hand in hand at all. However, there was a definite confirmed romance between 2 pretty major characters in 5Ds. Yes, I am referring to Jack Atlas and Carly, and their completely tossed aside love for each other after the Darksiders arc is what makes this list at the number 4 spot. I don't think I need to convince people how much Carly loved Jack, and actually her love for Jack was never diminished as the series went on. The English dub removed a lot of the blunt phrases that Jack said regarding his feelings for Carly, which is why if you have never seen the original subbed of 5Ds, you probably never knew that Jack, on multiple times, admitted he loved Carly. The first time we see Jack realize he has feelings for Carly is during their Darksigner vs. Signer duel. He says to her, "I want to save the person I truly love, you," and tries his best to end the duel in a draw which would kill them both. He even goes as far as saying, "Should I die with you, I'd have no regrets." If you need any further proof, he says to Godwin during the 3-on-1 duel a few episodes later that he was saved by one woman's love. It was definitely confirmed on both sides of the coin that these 2 had intense feelings for each other. So why is it on this list? Because after the Darksiders arc, any chemistry these 2 had or should have had going forward was completely forgotten about. It's not often we get confirmed romance in Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds was one of the first times we saw that mutually between 2 characters, but again, after the Darksiders arc, after Season 2, while Carly stayed obsessed and in love with Jack, he never showed any feelings towards her back. Whether he was suppressing his true feelings for the remainder of the show, or the writers completely decided to just not expand on them, is a whole other debate, but it was definitely a shame that this was never touched on again. It feels like the whole thing never had any closure, because we as a viewer never witnessed them discussing their feelings with each other, or anything like that, after Carly was revived. Jack just moved on, and the writers seemingly chickened away from doing anything with it. I've said it before, romance in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is usually done horribly, and this was probably the writers' best chance throughout all 5 shows to hit the hammer on the nail. It's really a shame they never capitalized on what was an extremely captivating relationship during the first half of the show. For all the reasons listed, this makes my list at the number 4 spot. Alright, these next 3 are the real juicy ones, so I hope you're enjoying the video so far. Coming in at the halfway point on this list, one word, Iliaster. The goals and changes the group Iliaster went through is actually pretty crazy. The way to look at Iliaster is Darksiders arc and post-Darksiders arc. Iliaster was originally a group led by Rex Godwin and were supposedly responsible for setting the Enter D off and destroying Domino City. Iliaster was basically a cult, one that began thousands of years ago and manipulated societies and governments from behind the scenes. I know people will compare them to the real-life Illuminati, and it's actually not hard to convince me that the lore of the Illuminati on Earth is maybe where the writers drew inspiration when making up Iliaster. Under Godwin, they were manipulating things like duel tournaments and were protectors of the people of the stars. However, this whole behind-the-scenes cult aspect was completely forgotten and dropped after the Darksiders arc. Instead, 3 emperors of Iliaster showed up, which turned out to be Aporia, and they claimed to be time travelers. And thus, the group that was once controlling government organizations and was a massive secret society completely changed into a group that were time travelers from a destroyed world. They did kind of cover themselves pretty well, because Zone does make mention of him and his group going back in time and manipulating people's memories of Iliaster, but honestly, the whole origin story of Iliaster has always been one that confused the hell out of me, and I know a lot of fans as well. The blame most likely lies with something that happened behind the scenes, and yes, I am referring to the Roma Sophie cult, which was a real-life cult that was taking Japan by storm. Unfortunately, this cult got directly linked to Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds because Carly's voice actress was apparently a part of it. Therefore, the show quickly scrambled to get rid of Carly's VA and lose any cult-like affiliations they had. Hence, Iliaster went from being a secret, manipulative, world-controlling society to time travelers. Still, the fact that we will never know what was originally planned for Iliaster had they stuck with the secret society gimmick makes this deservedly take the number 3 spot on this list. Coming in at the runner-up spot is, to me, one of the greatest missed opportunities of 5Ds, and that is the Arcadia movement. The Arcadia movement was probably the most brutal group that has ever existed in a Yu-Gi-Oh! Series. Their leader, Divine, or Sayer in the dub, was an absolute nutjob and could have been an incredible villain had the whole group not been shafted after the Darksiders arc. Geez, after the Darksiders arc is just becoming a trending phrase in this video. The group was responsible for the murder of Misty's younger brother, who was I think 14 at the time. Again, a group that had potential to be an amazing 3rd or 4th season antagonist group, especially in a 3rd season that was honestly all over the place. This group was always an antagonist group while they were around, but they took a backseat to the Darksiders. It was pretty much confirmed that the reason this group was disbanded after the Darksiders arc was because of the same cult I mentioned in the last part, the Roma Sophie cult. You literally can't get more cult-like than the Arcadia movement, a group that even described themselves as a cult multiple times throughout the show. For the same reason Iliaster's origin stories changed, the Arcadia movement was never heard from again, which is a real shame. There were rumors that Aki was going to have a solo arc where she faced the Arcadia movement in Season 3, similar to Yusei's Crashtown arc, which would have honestly been an incredible thing to watch. It would have been amazing for Aki's character, which really went stale in Seasons 3 and 4, and would have been amazing for the middle part of 5Ds, which is easily the most criticized part of the show. A real missed opportunity with the Arcadia movement, and the fact we never got any closure on Divine, only learning that he was arrested in the 10th anniversary booklet, left so much to be desired. The Arcadia movement takes the runner-up spot on this list. The number 1 spot on this list is something that would have not only drastically changed Yu-Gi-Oh! As we know it, but it would have even affected other Yu-Gi-Oh! Shows, especially Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5, the 5th show, 4th spin-off in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Franchise, and that is Crow being the final Darksigner boss. That's right. According to a journal published by a writer that worked for the team during 5Ds, Crow was supposed to be the final Dark Signer boss instead of Rex Godwin. Aki would have dueled him alongside Jack and Yusei, and the rest would have been history. Imagine how different everything would be regarding 5Ds, and even Arc 5 had this held true. It's almost impossible to even imagine it, given how popular Crow is with so many people in the community. The reason they decided to make Crow pretty much the third most important character in 5Ds and change the plans is by Blackwings. I'm not even kidding. Due to the popularity of Blackwings during the 5Ds era, they decided to change the story and write him in as a major character instead of having him get defeated as a main antagonist. And thus, with one change of heart, Aki took a massive backseat the latter half of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, and Crow went on to become one of the most well-known characters in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! He even went on to make an appearance in Arc 5. It's a different version of him, but nonetheless, had Crow been a Dark Signer, there's no way he would have been one of the two cameo 5Ds characters in Arc 5. Instead, it most likely would have been Aki and Jack, and with the female presence being there, Asuka would have never appeared as the GX cameo alongside Edo, and it would have been someone like Manjome or Hellkaiser. See how this one change drastically affects the entire Yu-Gi-Oh! Universe as we know it? There's no way this couldn't not be number one for me, and in my opinion, Crow being a Dark Signer boss is the number one forgotten storyline of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. Well guys, I really hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to check out my channel for more Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime content, and please leave all your thoughts on the video down below. Geez, going over this once more, Aki really got screwed, didn't she? Because of a real-life cult, she lost a possible arc versus the Arcadia movement. Crow completely stole her spotlight at the last minute. I love Aki, but the character she could have been. Jesus. Anyway, I'm just rambling. Thank you guys for watching, and thanks as always for the incredible support. Have an amazing day.
Wow.